What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Heel Deal podcast. Little 2-week hiatus, but we are back. We figured wasn't worth spending half an hour talking about every time we lose in basketball, right, Zach?
Right, yeah, a lot of negatives going on in the basketball world for us over the past couple weeks, except for just yesterday. But you see, yeah, we just wanted to wait on that, but we'll have some good stuff to talk about right now.
Yeah, exactly. How you been doing this week?
Good. Hope you have been. Hope classes are doing all right.
Yeah, it's getting there. We're getting into the semester over here at Carolina, but it's good, man. Especially that game on Saturday, yesterday, I guess. A lot of fun.
Yeah, it was good to see him win, and looking forward to talking about some, like I said, some positive things about the basketball team.
Yeah, exactly. We'll go a little bit in depth, but as far as this episode's concerned, we'll do the rundown as always. Go into a little bit of football news as far as our schedule 2020 being released, and we'll give a couple little first off-the-cuff observations.
Thoughts.
Yeah, exactly, and then go straight into basketball. So I guess we'll go over some of those losses we had, like the stretch of six straight losses. Yeah. Talk about our win against Miami. It was a shorthanded Miami, but it still was a good win. And then this upcoming game tomorrow night against NC State will be a big one. So why don't we hop right into it, Zach?
Sounds good.
With the rundown, which is essentially just, what's happening with women's basketball right now. They're playing still pretty well. They're struggling against the teams you'd think they'd be struggling against. So we'll just go a couple weeks back. They lost to Florida State. They beat Miami. They lost to Louisville, and they beat Georgia Tech. So 2-2 for the last couple weeks. They lost against two ranked teams. They'll take it. They're still a young team, first-year coach. Right now, they're still sitting at a very respectable 14-5. They're 5-3 in the conference, and this upcoming week they got games against Right now, as we are recording this, they just finished the game against NC State. They also lost that one.
Okay.
So that was 3 losses to ranked teams, which was tough. But this week, starting Thursday, they got Virginia, they got Clemson, and then big game against Duke. This is the away game, so they're playing in Durham. So hopefully they'll, keep grinding and get some ranked wins.
Yeah, I hope so, man.
Yeah, exactly. And then I guess we'll go into the big sports news of today, which, man, really messed up my day. But the passing of Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, it made me sick to my stomach, man. It's just like I told you. It's just been a weird day.
Yeah, exactly. Shoot, that broke around I think it was. Around 2:30 our time.
Yeah.
I was looking at my phone at the gym, and I'm like, I gotta get out of here. It's terrible. For some reason, Kobe just seemed like a dude who was, he was always going to be there. Nothing could ever happen to Kobe, and it was, almost unlike any other athlete I can really think of.
Yeah.
He was just, it was Kobe. Very few people, their name is the brand, and it's completely recognizable anywhere you go. So
yeah. Prayers go out to his entire family, friends, people close to him, and really the entire basketball world.
Mm-hmm.
If you grew up a fan of sports in general, around the time we were born, growing up when he was, the best player in the league, or really if you were, I don't know, just basically if you cared about sports, this is kind of a tough day.
Yeah, very, very tough.
I don't really know what else to say about it. It's just heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, but we'll keep pushing on. So they released the 2020 football schedule for UNC. So
they did.
Of course, we got a ton of momentum. All sorts of stuff that I'm seeing online have us ranked in the way too early top 25. Mm-hmm. I think I was looking at it this morning. Pro Football Focus released their way too early top 25 for 2020. And I, didn't care about the first few because it was obviously going to be Ohio State, Clemson, blah, blah, blah. So I scrolled all the way down to 20 and was looking through 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. And I'm like, man, there's no UNC. Really? They're sleeping on us. And then I'm scroll back up. And I'm like, oh, shoot, they got us at 15.
Yeah.
And had a little write-up about Sam Howell and how he basically had, he had the second most big-time throws. And, Pro Football Focus has their own, definition for big-time throws, but only second to Joe Burrow. and Sam Howell's a true freshman. So they just see, you know, like the sky is the limit with this coaching staff, with the people that are returning, and with the young stars we have coming in.
Yeah, he was in elite company last year, as you alluded to, with the the statistic close to Burrow, and we've talked about this, Ben, and we'll keep saying it, and I believe it more and more every day we get closer to this season. The offense is going to be a tough out for anybody. This is going to be a high scoring offense. I don't have any doubt about that. I think the only thing I'm looking at about the offense that could really worry me would maybe be just some protection in areas. We do lose Charlie Heck. We lose Nick Polino. So we'll have to have some guys step up in those areas. And as long as we can do that and they're able to remain healthy and we can keep Sam upright and also, be able to run the ball, against some teams that are going to obviously have some pass rush, I think we're going to be fine offensively.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, our air raid offense is kind of predicated on having at least a little bit of time in the pocket. The only times we really saw Sam struggle was when he was under duress and he was forced to get the ball out of there. That's when you kind of remember him being that he's a freshman,
right.
Make some mistakes under pressure. But, man, if we can keep him protected, we should be good. We got some obviously we're losing some guys on that defensive line. We're getting some guys in.
Yeah.
It'll be big. And speaking of the defensive line, man, Strobridge has apparently been lighting it up during senior week.
Yep. He's been playing really well. I saw a bunch of tweets saying he's been, just impossible to block. And that's really good. I hope that gets his draft stock up. I think he can really be a good NFL player if he remains on a good path and gets a good system, for his first year. I don't know how, like I was telling you earlier, I don't know if he'll be able to contribute to special teams as much just because he is a traditional sort of, 3-4-5 technique or a 4-3 defensive end. So he doesn't really have inherent, just runaway speed.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he can, if he were to get drafted into a good 4-3 defense in the NFL or something, he could develop as a defensive end. And then also there's plenty 3-4 defenses out there in the NFL where he could develop, play some inside as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, his game is stopping the run. And,
yep, for sure.
Teams really covet that, especially as I bet you when he comes into the NFL, he'll be an early down defensive end. He'll play like first down, second down when teams are more likely to run. But yeah, it'd be awesome to see him go in, the third round, second round would be great.
Yeah,
shoot,
it'd be awesome.
Sky is the limit,
and he deserves it. He had a great year for us. I don't think people realize just where we would have been had we not had him and Aaron Crawford on the defensive line this year in a lot of those games that we just fought to the finish.
I mean, we would have been annihilated by Clemson.
Right.
Maybe
right.
The fact that our defensive line was able to stifle their run a little bit, that was the key. We would have been done for.
Yep. If you can have a defensive line that can hold up against those top offensive lines like that, it really, it really allows you to open up a lot of different things you can do on defense, and then it forces them to do things they don't want to. Because if you let good teams establish the run, you open up a can of worms there.
Yeah.
So but really, really good for him. I'm proud of him. I hope he has a great, as we get closer to the draft and stuff, I hope he has a great spring, and hopefully he gets on a good team.
Yeah, exactly. Hope he gets on my team or something.
Yeah, it'd be nice. I'd take him as a Patriot.
Yeah. So why don't we get right into the main topic, and that is basketball. So the Heels are fresh off of a 6-game loss or 6-game losing streak in the ACC regular season for the first time ever.
Yeah.
This isn't just like a Roy Williams era thing. The program as a whole, ever since we've been in the ACC, we've never lost 6 straight games. And man, if I would understand if somehow the scheduling wasn't really good and we got some really tough teams, like if we were playing like Duke, Virginia, Louisville, then we played Duke again, then then you could see a 6-game losing streak happening. Dude, we lost against Georgia Tech, Pitt, Clemson, Pitt again, and Virginia Tech. None of them are particularly great teams, and especially that Virginia Tech game, man, was so heartbreaking in double overtime. You could just see that our players were gassed. We only had like seven or eight scholarship players dressed up for that game. Man, Garrison played 46 straight minutes at one point.
Yeah, he never left the court, and he couldn't. It was slim pickings that night, and it's a little bit more of a positive note now because of what we saw yesterday, right?
Mm-hmm.
We came out, we played really well against Miami, but it can't disguise the fact that this early part of our ACC schedule, which you and I talked about back in December, was so important because if this team was going to be able to make the tournament or do anything when it got there, it had to get through this early stretch, and it had to do it in a fashion that was convincing to make us think that, okay, we can go on the road and compete with Louisville maybe. We can go on the road and potentially give Florida State a game. We can have Duke come in here and go there and then fight them like we normally do. But, although we played great yesterday, I still think that the narrative around this team is that, this is not a good Tar Heel team. And I would have to agree with it. I haven't seen anything yet. Now, granted, they have been fighting their ass off, and pardon my language there, but they have been. And I think every Tar Heel fan can sense that. As you know, it was basically sold out yesterday. No one's given up on them. But the talent is just not there right now. Hopefully, Cole coming back will give us a spark in that area. But yeah, this win is great, but it's still right now we're kind of in tough times. We're not even 500 right now.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's the reason people are still coming to these games. You can tell that the players care. The players want to win. They still have heart and they're still trying, but it's tough for any team to overcome, A, the lack of elite talent we have, B, the just sheer number of injuries and lack of depth we have right now. It's tough. And I want to correct myself. I was saying we had a 6-game losing streak. It was actually a 5-game losing streak. Okay. But yeah, so we got a win. We snapped that losing streak, and we actually looked pretty good while doing it. We beat Miami 94-71, and granted, this was not a Miami team that was at full strength, and even at full strength, Miami isn't a very good team. They were missing Chris Likes, he was toasting us last year. He's the only reason that Miami managed to push us into overtime last year was because, what is he, like 5'6" or 5'7"?
Like 5'7". He just could not stop.
Oh my goodness. I just remember him pulling up from everywhere. That was ridiculous.
And just driving to the basket, all 5'7" of him, and then just scoring.
It looked like the Super Mario invincibility music should have been playing every time he was running.
No kidding.
Man, no, he's a heck of a player, and who knows how that game could have gone. But the Heels essentially dominated it straight from the beginning. We actually got off to a really strong start, and Miami couldn't buy a shot. It really Miami at the beginning of that game looked exactly what we'd been looking like, where we could not get into any kind of offensive rhythm. And then we were actually just hitting a ton of stuff. It reminded me so much of watching this team last year. Right. And I remember you and I, once the game was kind of out of reach for Miami and, we weren't too stressed about it, we were stressed about the Heels getting to 100 points at home so we could get the Bojangles biscuits.
Right.
And we didn't get there, obviously. We only got to 94 points, but I think Bojangles is getting free endorsements this year because I don't think they're ever going to have to give out free biscuits.
Yeah, the Bojangles in the greater Chapel Hill area have had a break this year because we haven't hit 100. But it was funny because for you guys don't know what we're talking about. If we score 100 points at home, Bojangles has a buy 2 sausage biscuits for $1 deal the day after the game. So there's just a joke amongst the fans and whatever that when we get close to 100, people will start chanting biscuits and stuff like that just to motivate the team to give us some discounted food. But they didn't quite get there. But that doesn't matter. I mean, we had a good offensive performance yesterday, and the fact that we were even thinking about getting to 100 was a positive in my mind.
Yeah, exactly. That really tells you all you need to know. But I mean, you could say this is like an aberration. We played one good game, but we're still not a good team, so we're going to lose a bunch more games. But this team actually might be trending on the right path. We had 32 team assists, and this is a team so far this year that has had a lot of trouble with assists. One of the reasons that we haven't been shooting well is because a lot of times we dribble past, the shot clock winds down, and then you kind of just have to pull up from wherever, and you're going to miss that. And so when we can move the ball around successfully and get these open shots, man, not only are you going to get points, but you're going to rack up team assists. So we had 32 assists. That is the most in the Roy Williams era. In this season where we're 9-10, we were 8-10 going into this game. 32 assists, the most. So that's a good sign that these kids are actually getting into an offensive groove, realizing how each other play, what strengths and weaknesses, and we're actually figuring out ball movement and court placement.
Right. And I would attribute a lot of what you said to two things in the context of yesterday's game. Part of it's Miami, right? I mean, they didn't have a whole lot going for them on defense yesterday. But the other part is we actually made our shots. And it wasn't. And I know you talked about how a lot of the shots we've been missing were bad looks, and you're exactly right. But that's part of we playing some better defenses and then also being on the road sometimes. But I mean, how many jump shots did we see yesterday that dropped that we have not seen dropped?
But that's the thing. It's like we were like I couldn't believe what was happening. It felt like. I mean, there were points during last season where, like, anything that left Kobe's hands or anything that left Cam's hands would you'd expect it to go in, right?
You felt confident about it.
Or, like, any kind of little, like, open mid-range jumper where pull-up, like, that was going to go in because that's a shot that, like, most good basketball players can make. We've been missing those all season, but, man, they were just locked in and they were hitting the shots that they were supposed to hit.
Yeah, we knocked them in yesterday, and we got those open looks from mid-range. I think it was probably a coaching point that if you get the mid-range jumper – don't think about trying to make too many passes. Just take that shot, especially if you're a guard.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
So Leaky would take it, and especially Brandon. Brandon had a great game.
I mean, that's 2 straight games for him. He didn't play the last game, but the game before, he had 27. That was against Clemson.
Yep.
Career high, right? And he did the very next game he plays, he sat because of some neck soreness. Ad just started auto-playing, my apologies. The very next game he plays, after sitting out with neck soreness from that car injury, he gets another career high, 29 points. He went 6 for 10 from 3, and I can't even remember the 4 threes he missed. It felt like everything was going in. 11 for 16 from the field. Just an absolutely phenomenal game. I mean, tack on 4 assists. The guy who really, really impressed me, though, after being pretty inconsistent for the past month or more, was Armando Bacot.
Yeah.
He had, like, his right hand all taped up and everything. Dude played 33 minutes, had 19 points, 12 rebounds, so, that's pretty standard for him. Our big men are racking up double-doubles everywhere. But he also had 7 assists, man, and that was, like, some real smooth passing, like, in the paint to Garrison. That was dishing out to open guys. I was pretty impressed. I just remember... like looking at you during the game, we were at the game. Where'd that come from?
Yeah. And that's when you brought up Armando a second ago. That's the stat I want to talk about with him was the 7 assists. Leading the starters, I believe, in that category for yesterday's game. But yeah, I mean, if you're a center and you're getting 7 assists, that tells you that you're getting double teamed, right? And then when you get double teamed, there's going to obviously be someone open. More than likely, it's going to be the guy that's also in the paint with you, in this case, Garrison, or I guess just someone who was cutting the basket. And he found those guys. And that's what you have to do. If teams are going to be confident in double teaming us, which they have been, they have had no reservation against double teaming our bigs because they do not respect our ability to hit beyond the arc consistently. Yeah. We saw Miami come out yesterday in a 2-3 zone, and I was like, yep, they're going to make us shoot it. And we're going to have to either prove to them we can get it in there and hit some shots inside, which we did, and they had to get out of that a little bit, or we're just going to have to hope we can chalk up threes.
I mean, we absolutely diced up that 2-3 zone that they opened up with. I mean, I'm pretty sure they mostly played the first half in that 2-3 zone, and it just made it so easy to get the ball into the paint to either Garrison or Mondo. Either shoot and score. Both those guys looked really good. Brooks went 7 for 11, and as I mentioned, Bacot went 8 for 11. So really efficient. Or if something wasn't there, if they had a big old guy, I can't remember what his name was. He was number 14.
I don't remember his name.
Yeah, he was a lot bigger than our bigs. He was probably 7 foot. He was like a brick wall. So if it wasn't there, you're not going to shoot over that guy. So they dished it out and got open shots and hit the open shots. Right. I just can't stress the making of the bucket enough.
Yeah, and then sometimes when Armando wasn't in and Garrison was and that big guy was in there, since he's guarding Garrison, if we give the ball to Garrison up at the top of the key just to, start the offense, obviously you're not going to respect him hitting a 3 too often, Garrison. But the guy has to come out of the paint there. He's at least got to come out there and, have a man on him. So then that kind of opens that up a little bit, right? If that center comes all the way out there, even if it's, just 5-6 steps out of the paint, that opens up some things for some cutters and then some other one-on-ones down on the block. So, I mean, overall, I thought we played really well on offense. We moved the ball well. We took advantage of some open jump shots. We took them with confidence, knocked them in. It was a breath of fresh air yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, what you said about Garrison was true. Just the fact that he can hit a jump shot really makes or it stretches out the defense a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were saying, he's taken some deeper mid-range shots with confidence, and he's hitting them. So remember, we were talking about the fact that if he can develop a little bit of a deeper shot, if he can become a 3-point threat, I'm not saying he's going to hit 40% of his threes, but I'm saying he can hit a three every now and then and force whoever's at the 5 on the opposing team to have to come out of the key. That's going to be huge, man. And I think he can, like, as a senior next year. So it's kind of just like football. Like, there's so much optimism for next year.
Yeah, if you like, one more point on Garrison, if we could just get him to where if they leave him just wide freaking open, he could have confidence to shoot that and maybe make it once out of every 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he did that. I can't remember which game it was. Was that Clemson?
It was either Clemson or Pittsburgh.
Yeah, exactly. Where he, had no choice because the shot clock was winding down because no one else wanted to take the shot.
Yeah.
But he's drained a 3. His first career 3.
Right. And if we could just get him to hit, like I said, maybe even just, I don't know, take maybe 3 every 3 games. I don't know. If you just leave him so open that at least they have to think about it, where they can't just say, oh, there ain't no
It's all just about, like, the threat of the 3. Because right now, in the games we lose, it's because there is no threat from the 3, not just from Garrison, but from every other player.
And it's just like we're talking about when Cole comes back. It's not always what Cole can do scoring. It's the threat of Cole that opens up things other places. It requires the defense to do other things. So the more you can do offensively, this goes without saying, but the more you can do, the more the other team has to prepare for, and more they have to defend, the more opportunities you're going to have to you. So. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about Garrison's future in particular. I think maybe the formula that we used yesterday, we can try to keep pushing that, take those mid-range jumpers in games to come. Keep trying to find that jump shot, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. I just can't wait to see what Cole can do when he comes back. I know he wants to get back on the court. It's not going to be tomorrow's game against NC State because I don't think he's out of full practice yet, but I think he could return within I think he's going to return before the Duke game for sure. He will play that Duke game, mark my words.
Yeah. If he misses the Duke game, that won't happen. He'll come back for that one if nothing else. I just think that's the kind of person he is.
Yeah, exactly. So now that we've talked about the Miami win, we got a big game over in Raleigh down the street against NC State. This is actually a pretty good NC State team. They're 14-6, 5-4 in the ACC. So they're not one of the powerhouses in the ACC. Like, I feel like this conference is kind of separated into tiers at this point, with the top of the top being Florida State, who's number 5 overall, Duke, obviously. Help me out here. Louisville, of course. Funny enough, Virginia is a fairly middling team. I mean, they're suffering from attrition right now. They just lost so many guys that I'm not surprised that they're not really
I think the only
in the running.
The only Tier 1 teams right now in the ACC are the ones we mentioned, Louisville, Duke, and then Florida State.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's, the midsection, which is most teams, and then the bad teams. I don't want to lump us in with the bad teams, but it's teams like Wake Forest, Miami, teams like that. But NC State is on the upper end of that mid-range section, and it's going to be a tough game. So talk to me about the Wolfpack.
Yeah, I mean, going to PNC Arena to play them is always an experience. We've actually had a lot of success there in recent memory. I don't know if we've actually lost one at NC State since maybe 2013. I may have to check myself on that, but I can't remember us losing one there in forever. It's been a long time. We won games we weren't supposed to win there back in like 14, 15 when we struggled for a little bit. But anyway, it'll be tough tomorrow. C.J. Bryce is a guy that they have that is playing really well this year. He leads the team in both points and rebounds. No doubt he'll come out and he'll force guys like Leaky to really play good defense. He'll force maybe Brandon to play some good defense at times, and that might make their legs a little bit worn out later in games. So I think for us to succeed tomorrow night, I think we need to a little bit of the same thing we had yesterday. We've got to be willing to take those open jumpers when we get them. We know that teams that play us are going to double down inside and not let Armando and Garrison use their post moves and us play to our strengths on the offensive glass. So we've got to be willing to take those jump shots. We got to use the whole floor to our advantage, and we've just got to hit them. We've just got to make plays. And I know that sounds simple, but we've just got to make plays like we did yesterday. We can't get down too big early, and because they're excited for this one. They haven't really had a lot of success against us in recent memory, really anywhere, but especially in Raleigh.
Yeah, absolutely. C.J. Bryce, he's their guy as a guard, shooting over 50% from the field, almost 14 points per game. It's going to be tough, and of course we're not going to have Cole here. We're just going to have to play a full, complete team game. Of course, you're going to have to do that to win. Like when role players like Andrew Platek have to or forced into the starting lineup, it's going to be an entire team effort because no one person can take over this game.
No.
Shoot, Garrison Brooks basically took over the Virginia Tech game, and we still lost that. B-Rob took over the Clemson game. We still lost that game. It needs to be a complete team game.
Absolutely.
If we can have 3 or 4 guys into double-digit points, that's how we're going to win. And if we can get those assists up, I mean, just to put in perspective how great this last game against Miami was, like I said, we had 32 assists that game. We're averaging 15. 15. We had more than double our average.
Yeah.
I don't know what our average before that game was. Obviously, the average has gone up because of the 32-point game. So let's say it was around 14 points.
Right.
Man, it's huge.
And it's not always just because we've had just perfectly open lanes for dunks and alley-oops out in transition. I was telling you yesterday, one thing I was hoping we would get yesterday was just a fast break alley-oop. Because, I feel like we haven't been out in transition enough to really play that brand of basketball that we're so good. We've been forced to play half-court basketball all year.
No, but we actually had some steals and some breakaway plays. I think it was B-Rob who had a steal. Missed the breakaway layup, but then Christian Keeling was there to put it back in. It was something that we just have not seen since Kobe White and Cam Johnson, Luke May were all in Tar Heel blue.
Yeah. Everybody, when you're playing UNC, everybody's got to box somebody out. Everybody's got to be able to run the floor because traditionally, if you can't do that against us, we will just beat you to death on the offensive glass and get 4 or 5 chances until we score. And then we'll also defensive rebound really well. We'll get some steals and run. And there's not many teams that are going to be able to run a fast-paced game at the level we can whenever we're playing well. It's just not the way it's just always been that way. That's just Roy Williams' brand of basketball. That's what's made him a Hall of Fame coach. So, yeah, hopefully we can get out and transition a little bit tomorrow. I don't anticipate we'll be able to do it as well as we were against Miami. This will be a tough game. I don't know if it's I can be confident enough just based off yesterday to pick us to win this game, but because it is at least in some ways still a rivalry game, I think that we'll go out there, we'll fight them like we haven't fought anyone else all year. We will not let them beat us bad by any means. I don't see it happening. I don't know what you think about who will win, but I don't really know if I can pick us, but that's definitely not going to count us out and say this is going to be just one that we can just hope is over before too long.
Yeah, absolutely. ESPN definitely doesn't think we're going to win. Their basketball power index has NC State winning by just a little upwards of 78%.
Yeah.
So that's significant. We're significant underdogs. I think the line has NC State as a 5.5-point favorite. And it's tough, man, because we looked so good in that last game, but then you have to check yourself and say, wait, this is Miami, who's at the bottom of the ACC without their best player.
Yeah, and only 10 people that traveled total.
Exactly.
So I think they only had 10, right? Something like that.
Yeah. I think they only dressed 10 guys. Yeah. So these guys were just gassed by the end of the game. So it is really tough to say, this trend is going to continue because, frankly, it's not a trend.
But, like Roy has said in post-game press conferences up to this point before we won yesterday, these kids have to be rewarded. He said that after Virginia Tech. We have to, you can fight to get better. You can fight to, to just win and to succeed in everything you do. But at the end of the day, when you're talking about, collegiate athletes who are still kids, quote-unquote, I'm a kid. We're kids. You have to be rewarded for things like that. You eventually you have to see your work pay off, and we just had no rewards up until yesterday.
It was just such a tough break, man.
Yeah.
I just remember seeing Garrison's face at the end of the double overtime loss. Man, he was just ready to cry, and I was ready to cry because this team has been through so much, and just one good win does so much for morale, right?
Yeah, of course it does, and that's why I think tomorrow we have a good shot of winning the game as long as we come out and we're able to actually execute our offense and just take shots with confidence.
Mm-hmm. It's just all about confidence.
Yeah, you cannot do just like get the ball and then like in mid range and start looking around like, oh shit, should I pass? Excuse my language again. But you have to you got to be confident in it. We're not going to have a bunch of just open dunks tomorrow like we have had when we've had just superior talent. We've got to take what we can get, and then once we do that, if we can start executing that will open up other things for us, which we saw yesterday. It's going to be a fight, but I think we have enough to make it a game and potentially win if we're able to execute like we did yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be a real scrappy game. Can we win? Yes. Will we win? Who knows? I don't want to say one way or the other. I don't want to give a score prediction because really anything can happen. But this could be, a very important pivot point in this season.
Right. If
we can tack on another win where we play well as an entire team and for all 40 minutes, man, that can have some. We would just have so much momentum, and then we get Cole back. We could turn the season around in theory.
Yeah.
Or we could show that this last win against Miami was because we were playing a completely outmatched team,
right.
Outmatched, injured, tired team, and we are the Tar Heels that we think we are this season.
I mean, guys, we are in late January. I mean, we're talking about turning the season around and all that stuff. I mean, if we're going to do anything with this season, it's got to happen now.
Yeah, this is it.
We have 10 losses at the end of January, and the chance I don't think we can make the tournament right now unless we did something as drastic as win the ACC tournament. Making the NCAA tournament is what I mean by I don't think we can make it. We'd have to win the conference or something like that, the tournament, which, I don't know what the likelihood of that happening is. But it like Ben said, if we were able to go out and win tomorrow night, it might push us in the right direction to make a final push here to try to turn something around. We got all of our tough games ahead of us. That doesn't look good, but we do get Cole back soon, and if we can keep the momentum going, keep the positivity in the locker room, you never know what can happen. It's at that point we have belief back on our side, we have confidence back on our side, and you can do great things when you have those two things.
Yeah, exactly. Even if we're not going to make the tournament at the end of the day, or the NCAA tournament, I should say, at least they'll have some fun in the latter half of this season. But yeah, these games are not getting any easier. In fact, the schedule is getting very, very hard. I would honestly venture to say that our strength of schedule for the rest of the season is probably tops in the entire NCAA.
Yeah.
Just because of the way that everything was backloaded.
Right.
But we're going to see. We're going to see, and we'll have plenty to talk about with you guys. But that just about wraps it up. You got any last thoughts on this?
I mean, I'm glad we won yesterday. I'm glad to see the guys happy about it. I hope we play a good game tomorrow night, and hope you guys had a good weekend.
Yeah,
we'll talk to you next week or something.
Absolutely. So, from your hosts Ben and Zach here at the Heel Deal Podcast, thank you guys as always for giving us a listen. And Zach, how do we finish these off?
As we draw closer to February 8th, Ben, go to Hell Duke.